What's the best position in basketball? I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
Blood of atonement, gotta do it from the heart. Finish how you start. The game always changes, but still play your part. The lights come out after dark. Never forsake the art, never tear it apart. History is set, the future is where we are.
And let me start by talking about what this video is not. This video is not about me definitively telling you, okay, this position is the best position in basketball. It's also not me giving you my opinion, like, okay, here's what I think. Point guard is the best position. That's not it either. The point of this channel is for me to at least try to help you become the best basketball player you can be. So today I'm going to try to help you figure out what position is best for you to play as a basketball player. If you've come to this channel, this video with this question, I'm assuming you're more of a newer, younger player. Keep in mind, because you haven't picked a position yet, means you're not locked into a position yet. That's great. That means you have the whole basketball floor open to you. As you go through this process of trying to figure out what position you should play, you want to be as open-minded as possible. Some players, from the very beginning of starting basketball, they think to themselves, I have to, or I should, or I want to play X, Y, or Z position, and they just sort of lock themselves into that box for their whole career. But the more open-minded you can be to what position you eventually end up playing, that means the more diverse player you can eventually be. So let's get into what basketball position is best for you. In trying to figure out what position to play, I think there are three main questions you have to answer. One is, what position do you like to play? What position do you feel sort of naturally fits you as a player? Secondly, what position is most advantageous to you as a player? Because they may not be the same. Hopefully they are, but they very well may not be. And thirdly, overall, in general, what are your basketball goals? So starting out with what position feels most natural to you. If you're a newer player, if you're just starting to sort of figure out the game of basketball, if you're sort of just generally asking, you know, if you're in the very beginning stages of the strategy of basketball, part of which is like, what position should I even play in the first place? Something I want you to try to avoid, especially from the beginning of your career, is getting too complicated too soon. So like asking yourself questions like, okay, what skills or abilities do I have that might lead me to understanding what position is best for me? Especially at the beginning of your career, you don't really want to get bogged down in those kind of questions because you're a beginner. You don't really have the skills or abilities that you're going to develop later on. You may be saying, okay, yeah, but for right now, as at whatever level you are right now, like what position would be best for whatever skills and abilities I have right now. But even that, I think, is a little bit too complicated. Like, don't complicate things more than they need to be up front. I like to keep things as simple as possible. So my best way to go about figuring out what position feels most natural to you as a beginner is, where do you feel more comfortable on the floor as a player? So in the half court, what part of the court feels more comfortable to you, more natural to you? Does it feel better to you to be closer and nearer to the basket, or does it feel better to be like further away around the three-point line, around the perimeter? And then keep in mind, if you are one of those players that say, okay, I do want to be a perimeter player, what side of the perimeter, what wing feels better to you? Try to be aware and conscious of where on the floor do you just feel more comfortable, more natural. And at least as importantly as that, especially as a younger player, I try to encourage players, it's very important to understand your whys. So why? Why do you feel comfortable here? Why do you not feel comfortable there? What's the difference? Understanding why you feel the way you do will then lead to why you then behave the way you do on the court. That can be a huge key for a younger player, because this channel is meant for serious basketball players. Players that we love so it's fun to us, right? Like, it is fun to everybody. We all play this game because it's fun, but to us, much of the fun, maybe most of the fun, is the sort of quest of trying to figure out how to become the very best basketball players we can be. Most of the players out here are just casual players, right? They're just looking to have fun and enjoy themselves. That's perfectly fine, but for us, we're much more serious than that. So, in order to take our game to the next level, a level above and beyond everyone else, right, we need to be as comprehensive as we can be, and a huge part of that is understanding why about everything in our game and why we love the game and how we can evolve in the game. For example, like if you're a new, younger player, right, and in your friend group, you're one of the taller guys, right? If you want to be a perimeter player, if you want to be a perimeter guard, and you want to play away from the basket, but in your friend group you just happen to be one of the taller kids at that age, then you're going to kind of be expected to play near and around the basket because you're taller. So you don't really want to play near and around the basket, but you're expected to because it's more advantageous for you as a taller player to be closer to the basket. And then later on, as you age and like all of you and your friends have kind of reached the height at which you're just going to permanently be, at that point, okay, now where is most advantageous for you to be on the court? For me, I got lucky because I always wanted to be a point guard since I was a kid, and then I just grew to be one of these smaller players out here, so it made sense for me to end up being a point guard. But that may not be the case for you. You may feel more comfortable in a certain part of the court, but it may be more advantageous to you as a player to play in a different part of the court. The way you figure that out is by determining what your actual basketball goals are. Like, you can't know what's more advantageous to you if you don't know what that advantage is leading towards. For example, for me, I knew I didn't have what it took to go pro. Like, I was aware of that since I was a kid, so going pro was never my goal. My goal became just to be the best basketball player I could possibly be, to see what that looked like as I matured as a player. And then that just so happened to turn out to be the fact that I was a very good pass first point guard. So that meant, like, okay, not only do I feel most comfortable being a point guard, but it's also to my advantage working towards my goals to see, you know, what's my fullest potential as a basketball player to be a point guard. Had I been in love with rebounding and wanted to be a rebounder, sure, I could have explored my potential to be the very best rebounder I could be, but overall, in general, my ceiling as a basketball player would have been much lower because being a rebounder is not to my advantage as a player. So at some point, you may come to the crossroad where you have to make the decision, okay, here's where I'm most comfortable playing, most natural, and here's what's most advantageous to me. What do I choose? There is no wrong answer. It's just a matter of what's more important to you. You have a chance and opportunity to give yourself knowledge and experience that other players who just decided, I'm just going to be a shooting guard, that's all I'm ever going to be, and I'm going to specialize in that one thing always. Like, for example, if you don't do that, if you go, I'm going to experiment and try out the entire court, every position, all the points on the court, if I'm going to try everything and see how it feels, see how I do, see what my strengths and weaknesses are, how much I enjoy every position. If you put yourself through that process, you're giving yourself a huge advantage over someone who says, I'm just going to be this one position always and forever. But of course, for you, that then means a lot of experimentation, which means it's going to take a lot of repetitions, which means it's going to take a lot of time and effort. But I encourage you to do that because it is so worth it. Get the best, most comprehensive understanding of every part of the court as you possibly can. Also, don't forget the defensive side of the court. Meaning, like, okay, maybe you've made up in your mind, I want to be a perimeter shooter, a three-point shooter. That's perfectly fine, but you probably decided on that because you wanted the glory, right, of being a scorer and a three-point shooter, because in today's basketball, the three-point shooter, the one that can make all the threes from further away, they're the hero, right? So that's what you want to be. Well, that's all good and well from the offensive side of the ball, but what about the defensive end? Because if you're a three-point shooter, that means you're probably going to have to defend other three-point shooters. For example, if you want to be, you know, the next Stephen Curry and you want to shoot like he does, well, okay, but do you want to defend Stephen Curry? And are you sure about that? Because have you seen what he does to get those open looks at the basket? Have you seen how he moves without the ball? Do you really want to defend him? Do you really want to chase him around the court? That's going to be exhausting. Do you actually want to do that? And then, after chasing him, after exhausting yourself on defense, are you still going to be able to be a three-point shooter? Keep the defensive end of the position in mind as well. It's not about does it only fit you offensively? Is it not just to your advantage offensively, but what about defensively, right? You want to find a good balance, because if one position you're really great offensively, but you're terrible defensively, is that what you want to play your whole career? And vice versa? Like, you got to find the right balance that fits you right. And the only way you find that out is by experimenting with every position over and over and over again. Putting yourself through all kinds of different circumstances and situations in every position so that you really get a good comprehensive feel and understanding for that position. In doing so, that not only makes you a better player individually, but it makes you a better teammate, because it gives you an understanding of whatever teammate playing whatever position, what they need, what their responsibilities are, and how you can help them, because you understand what it's like to play their position, both offensively and defensively. So you know how to help them offensively because you know their position, and you know how and when to help them defensively, again, because you understand their position. So the better you understand, the more comprehensive your understanding of every position, what the responsibilities are, is going to make you a better player and a better teammate. Lastly, do not forget that this is supposed to be fun. What's the point of putting yourself through that process of trying to figure out what position to play if going through that process just isn't any fun? And then if you end up playing a position that you don't really like and it's not really fun for you to play, what would be the point in that? That could very well end up being the determining factor for what position you ultimately end up playing, which is, do you actually enjoy it or not? Because you can force yourself to play a position that you may be really good at, but if it's not fun for you, then what's the point? So yes, I do encourage you to put yourself through that process of trying to figure out what position is best for you, but in the process of doing that, try to enjoy it as much as you can. Also keep in mind, as you grow, as you evolve, as you mature as a player, whatever position is like your primary position is probably going to change and evolve. Don't be closed-minded to the fact that you may decide to play a certain position, and then as you mature as a basketball player, be it mentally and or physically, what position you play may change as well. Also keep in mind, it can be very advantageous to you to have a secondary position that you're very good at as well. So ideally, you'd be good at every position, right? But that's not really realistic, right? What's more realistic is you have your position that you play and you master, but maybe then you have a secondary position that you're very comfortable at as well. You want to keep that in mind. That secondary position may be very necessary at some point, because maybe whatever position you play out here is taken up by another player who just happens to be better at you at that time, at that level, and so you can sort of switch to another position that you're still comfortable with. Keep that contingency in mind as well as you're going through that process of trying to figure out what position to play. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, if you found it helpful, if you think it's going to help you decide what position is best for you as a player, then please subscribe to the channel. Comment down below and let me know what position you play and how you came to decide to play that position. But before you comment, make sure you hit that thanks button down below, because when you hit that thanks button, not only does every comment you make stand out because you hit that thanks button, but it also directly supports the channel. So for anyone that does hit that thanks button, know I genuinely appreciate it. As always, like, share, comment, like I said, make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any video goes live on this channel. And until then, I'll see you guys next week.
You was made to win. Best believe, don't doubt again. Can't count me out, just count me in. I'm on 10, high level, high end. Realer than you pretend. Every day I'm going in, gotta get it on my mama. I need 3 commas. Rockstar Nirvana, popping off like drama in the middle of the summer. My team go crazy, full of game runners. Woo.